Welcome to the Yosemite Fit Show. I'm Brent DeShazer.
I'm Steve Duggar.
We've got a great show in store for you today. Our guest today is a local community member, Mike Ahmadi, who has made some pretty radical transformations with his health. It's a really inspirational tale. I'm excited to have him share his journey with us and with the community. But before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody, all of our listeners, that the topics we discuss on this show are for informational purposes only. You should always seek the advice of your own doctors, trainers, nutritionists, other healthcare providers about your individual needs. Neither the hosts nor the guests are liable for the use of any information for anything we might be discussed on this program. So it's actually been a couple of weeks since we've recorded our last show. I was sick and out of commission for over a week and just now starting to feel human again. So anything new with you, Steve? How's things going?
It's trucking along. just trucking along. I actually took a little bit of a break too. So
Okay.
I think I took about 4 or 5 days off at the end of the month.
Slacker.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the month, typically I'll do like maybe a deload kind of thing where I do 50% of the intensity and the volume.
Okay.
Or sometimes I'll just take it completely off depending on how my body feels. So I ended up just taking about 4 or 5 days off and, kind of felt like I was maybe starting to come under the weather or fighting something off. So
Okay.
it'd be, that's always a debate. You're like, well, am I going to push into this? Am I slacking a little bit too much? But I figured that, I'm hitting all my numbers and I'm back on, right on track. So
Okay.
4 or 5 days off.
All right. Well, that's good to get back on track. I know it's taken me a little bit. I started, getting back into it just with some body weight stuff, push-ups and pull-ups and everything before I started hitting the weights again. So, All right. Do want to remind everybody to check out our website. It's www.yosemite.fit. It's still a work in progress, but we've got some really cool stuff out there. All of our podcast episodes will always be on there. There's links out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. But we also have a couple of neat things on there. We've got upcoming events. So any races, clinics, other health events that are happening in our area. We've got an upcoming events calendar. And then we have a business directory that we're starting to build as well. So any of the local health and wellness and fitness businesses, gyms, yoga studios, clinics, anything like that in our area, the health food store is on there. So we're starting to build that. If you are out there and would like to be included or have an event that you would like to show up on that, just send it to show@yosemite.fit and we'll make sure that it gets added on there for you. So, we are on Apple's podcast. We're on Spotify, and pretty soon we're going to be on the local KRYZ low power FM radio station here in Mariposa. So we'll have more information on the actual days and times that will be on the radio, but that's coming up pretty quick here. Okay, so as I mentioned at the start of the show, today's guest is Mike Ahmadi. Mike is actually quite the photographer, and that's how I first met Mike. We were in the local photo club together, so however many years ago
Sadly, that's gone now.
It kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
But over, I say the last year, it may be a little longer, and we'll ask you. I've been seeing your posts on Facebook about kind of the health journey that you've been on.
Yeah.
And so I've watched you hit the gym pretty hard, great photos. We ran into each other on the street in town a few weeks ago, and you kind of told me a little bit more about your story, and it was a pretty impressive story with the changes you've made.
Yeah.
The weights
you knew me when I was over 300 pounds.
I did, and to see you walk around today, like when you walked in today, I mean, I had seen you a few weeks ago, but even when you walked in today, I'm like, wow, this is, so noticeable. So
that's Coach Steve
right?
torturing me.
So I should mention, you're a client of Steve's for personal training as well.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a neat connection there.
Yeah.
So Mike, tell us just a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in Mariposa in the area?
Bought a place as a second home in 2015.
Okay.
Went back and forth. I was living in the Bay Area. And then after doing that for a while, I said, I'm really sick and tired of living in the Bay Area.
All right.
18, sold my home and decided to move here permanently. Built an addition on the house, and
all right.
It's like I'm a mountain man now.
All right. Well, like I said, you've been a great member of the community in a lot of ways. But yeah, really, your fitness journey. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, tell us how that started, I guess.
Yeah. So in 2019, I remember my heaviest weight was 341 pounds, right?
Okay.
2020, I went to doctor said you got to go see a cardiologist because it's something a little weird in your heart, not being that anything bad, but and I found out that they weighed me at that point at 335, and I
Okay.
know that because they weighed me a couple of months ago and I was at 235.
Okay.
And
A hundred
and she's
pounds.
like, she said, you've lost 100 pounds since 2020.
Okay.
I didn't really start on my sort of weight loss and fitness journey until about 2021,
Okay.
roughly. I was seeing an endocrinologist, local guy, really great guy, Dr. Horvat. He works in San Francisco, but comes here.
Okay.
And I had diabetes. I had type 2 diabetes since 2016,
Okay.
2017. And he's a really quirky guy. He's like, sits down. He's like, okay, here's the statistics. Boom, boom. He's got a PhD, He's about numbers, Here's where you are. You're going to have a heart attack any day now. And I'm
That'll
like,
wake you up.
they found a blockage, a 30% blockage, which apparently is not horrible, but, and there was, it's like, yeah, you're struggling. And, it was at that point he said, you can get some stomach surgery.
Okay.
Which I strongly suggest, or you can go on a diet. You got to do one or the other. And I'm like, I'm going to do the diet.
Okay.
Right. And so I
didn't like the idea of surgery. I mean, you figured
I didn't, there's too many. I've known people that have done it. They've gone through the surgery. It messes up a lot of things.
Okay.
I mean, it fixes a lot of things for people, but you got to take different supplements. And then some people, they just get fat again,
Right.
And I figured it's kind of better to change my eating habits. So I just got an iPhone app, and I just started tracking my calories,
Okay.
my macros every single day. And I said, it was all about portion control. And about a year after that, I was friends with Jenny Kaiser.
Okay.
It was a local gym.
Yep. Mountain Fitness. Shout out to Jenny.
And we were friends, and I just said one day, I said, I think I want to start doing some exercise, because what happened was when I was dieting for the first year and a half or so, I was losing a couple pounds a week, but I hit a sort of a plateau.
Okay.
I wasn't gaining or losing.
All right.
And so I said, I think I need to add some exercise to my plan. So she's like, well, let's go for a walk. And we went on a walk. I went and saw her at her office. She's Farmers Insurance, and we went by the gym and she showed me the gym and I'm like, all right, sign me up. And I said, if I sign up, will you help me get started? And she's like, sure. And for a year almost, she would train me.
Wow. Okay.
Pro bono.
Wow.
We became really good friends. And awesome. Then, I started, building a little muscle. She's about endurance. She's it's a hard workout.
Okay.
It's an exhausting workout with her. And then I said, I want to start focusing on toning, muscles
right.
And that's when I started talking to Steve. He was at the gym every once in a while. And she said, you should talk to Steve.
Okay.
And I said, hey, you want to coach me? And he's like, yeah. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
Right.
I was like,
so you started out just with diet, right? So you just started making dietary changes.
Well, so
it's the way.
I gotta say, as a sort of a disclaimer, I had diabetes, right? So the doctor gave me his once a week injection, Trulicity.
Okay.
It's kind of similar to Ozempic. Right?
Okay.
But it was for diabetes. In fact, Ozempic's created for diabetes.
Right.
But it helped control my appetite.
Okay.
Which was helpful. And he said, I've seen people lose up to 30 pounds with this. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I came in, I had lost 70 pounds. And he's like, okay, that's just not the drug. You're doing something else.
Okay.
I'm like, well, yeah, I'm also counting calories. He's like, that's awesome. And then I started exercising. And that's when he said my A1C, my diabetes numbers is you don't have diabetes anymore.
Wow. So were you full blown,
type 2 diabetes, had to take metformin and, I had to pierce my finger every day. And
Right.
yeah, for like 6 years,
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
5 years, you know, it's like, yeah, that's when he said, you know, you got to do something because that's like the leading cause of heart attacks is diabetes, believe it or not,
Okay.
you know, it
So,
leads to coronary artery disease. And I just had to just really focus on, you know, so that helped me get started.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then so you did that for like a year and a half, and that got you kind of to the point where you felt comfortable, like, you know, you were talking to Jenny, you knew Jenny.
Yeah.
And so you're talking with her. It's like, hey, I want to give the gym a try.
Yeah, I knew Jenny, and she's really friendly, and she's very pretty.
All right.
And she's like, you know, yeah, you know, come on, go for a walk. I'm like, hey, sure, you know, well, why not? If nothing else, I'm going for a walk with this really cute girl.
All right.
You know? And so, and then she's like, you know, she's just very energetic, you know.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And so I said, all right, you know, you'll let's see if you'll train me. And then she would do it again and again and again. She kept doing it, you know. And I said, you know, wow, you know, I mean, if you're going to stick with it, if you're going to invest your time in me, I'm going to invest my time in me.
Right.
Right.
That's
you know,
great.
that's the way I looked at it. And then I would, I think what she really liked is like I would push her to push me harder.
Okay.
You know, like, you know, that's not I'm not tired.
Challenge. All right.
She really loved that. The fact that I was willing to challenge myself. And even Steve will tell you, it's like, all right, just bring it on, you know?
Nice.
I'll take as much as you can throw at me.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you were still kind of a bigger guy going into the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you first started going to the gym and everything. Any issues with you know, kind of a self-awareness or I'm losing the term right now, but
Some like anxiety being due.
yeah, or anything like that?
No, I really didn't. At that point, well, first of all, we have a small gym,
True. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like, you know, I'm walking in and there's like 100 bodybuilders, but I don't, you know, anything in life is I always look up to people that like if I see someone that's like really fit, I'm like I'll go talk to them. It's like I'd like to be that. You know?
Right. Okay.
So I don't look at that as a threat. Some people do, you know. I'm like, you know, that's an example. In fact, that's when kind of like what led me to Steve. It's like, you look pretty good. You know?
All right.
So,
Well, I try.
yeah. So, I'm like, you know, so, you know, you know, let me try. But no, it wasn't anxiety. But, you know, I think, you know, at first it was like just trying to motivate myself to get to the gym.
Okay.
You get up and it's like, do I really want to go to the gym? You know, and I just had to like keep doing that. And I always tell people, it's like it has to change up here.
Right.
You know, you have to really convince yourself, you know, that, you know, in your headspace, that this is what you do now.
Okay.
You know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, it's like when people ask him why he works out, he's like, that's like asking me, why do I brush my teeth or eat or go to the bathroom? You know, it's just part of my life.
Right.
You know, and
So, Mike, before it was part of your life, though, and you said that you'd wake up sometimes and you have kind of a reluctance. What was it that you like said to yourself or pictured, or what did you do internally to kind of to push through that and build that into a habit?
I had to convince myself that I'd spent enough of my life making myself sick that I had to spend some time making myself better.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have young children. Right. And I'm like, I want to be around for them, you know? And I think what helped me over time get past the reluctance was like, I started noticing that I was feeling better. Like the first thing I noticed was I could put socks on. For 8 years, I could not put a pair of socks on. I had to like lift my foot up onto the bed and like do some sort of acrobatics. And it took me like 10 minutes to get my socks on. And then I could tie my shoes. Right.
Wow.
And I could bend down and pick something up without kneeling, you know.
Right.
And all of a sudden these little things, you know, happen. And then it's just like I said, in my head, I said, I'm getting fit. And it's really weird. I think I said this to Steve. It's like in my head, I'm already fit. I'm just waiting for my body to catch up.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is a great attitude.
Yeah.
Now, do I remember, did you used to walk with a cane for a while or?
I did. I still use a walking staff when I walk outside, you know,
Okay,
just
okay.
I like the, but I used to walk with a cane because I have, herniated lower lumbar disc, you know,
Okay.
and I have osteoarthritis.
Uh-huh.
But as I lost weight, well, there was a couple of things that happened when I lost weight. First of all, I was on, and this is this is a vulnerability moment here. I was on prescription hydrocodone for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Every day.
Right.
Right.
That's some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember last August, I just came to the conclusion after working out for about 6 months. It's like, I'm not really feeling that much pain. So I tried to cut my dose down in half because I know I shouldn't go cold turkey. And even that just drove me into it was terrible withdrawals. And I had to go to the doctor. I'm like, I want to get off this. And here's the thing. You say, trust your medical professionals. I take that with a grain of salt because my medical professionals, my pain doctor was trying to figure out how to get me on a lower dose. I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. I don't want to take any of it anymore.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to take the medication. You tell me how to get off of medication. And I tell that to all my doctors. What's it going to take to get off the medication? Right.
Oh, yep.
And and the healthcare professional, God bless them, they help us, right? But they'll spend 90% of the time telling you what medications to take and no time at all telling you what kind of an exercise program you should be on.
Right.
Right? Health insurance companies should pay for gym memberships and personal coaching.
Right.
That's what they should pay for.
And there are companies and out there, and even I know my daughter's husband, the company that he works for, they get an allowance for preventative, personal trainers and things like that. So I think that's starting. There's a big movement called Healthcare 3.0.
Yeah.
Healthcare 2.0 has been all about the treating of symptoms, right? The taking the medication, to get your blood pressure down, to do this, and absolutely, again, want to emphasize, you should work with your doctors and healthcare professionals whenever possible. Don't do this on your own, but it is something that is changing to the point where they're calling it healthcare 3.0 now, where they're not just trying to alleviate symptoms, they're actually trying to treat things. And a lot of it is, diet, exercise, good sleep, watching our stress levels, these 4 pillars of health that I've talked about before, that can proactively or retroactively in some cases, but alleviate this. It can either prevent you from having, diabetes, heart conditions, things like this. But as in your case, if you get on it and commit yourself to it, you can reverse some of those conditions and really start to feel a lot better.
It's very unusual for people once they get type 2 diabetes to reverse it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most people get worse.
Right.
Right. I mean, I remember when I first a couple of years after I first had it, I went to one doctor, and he he's like, you're not on insulin. Right? He's like, you're going to end up on insulin. And it really pissed me off. I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to end up on insulin? It's like, you're not going to be able to get, you're not going to be able to do what you have to do. I'm like, it really angered me.
Okay.
It's like, it's like, don't tell me I'm not going to be able to do it. And that was actually one of the things that actually drove me to start really, paying more attention,
Okay.
And I went to a cardiologist and he's like, you need to be on more medication. I'm like, why? I go, why didn't you tell me that I should be exercising more and doing cardio exercises?
Right.
I can get my heart rate up to 170 beats per minute without getting short of breath. Isn't that better than being on this medication? And it's really weird. Some doctors, they don't spend a lot of time coaching you on how you can get physically better through exercise like Steve does,
right?
And like personal trainers do. And it's almost like they're offended that you're using someone besides the doctor to help you get better.
Wow. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's bizarre. And I could tell a guy was like bothered that I had figured out how to do something that went beyond his recommendations for medication.
Okay.
Right.
So, well, yeah. And they do have, I do know that medical doctors have, what is it, the the standard of care that they have to follow, right? You know, and they don't want to get sued. They don't want to, you know, and so, you know, and I guess on the flip side, it is good for when you've got, you know, it creates an industry for trainers, nutritionists, you know, wellness people, but you just have to seek those out, right? And find people to get on your team, you know, in addition to your doctors and medical professionals, and hopefully eventually start working together. I mean, hopefully your doctors now are seeing, you know, they're getting you off the medications, reducing the
endocrinologist in particular is just, he's been like ecstatic. You know, he comes in and he's like, every time he sees me, I've lost more weight and my numbers are better. And he's just like, he's happy as hell. And he'll tell me, he's like, oh God, I got these other patients. They annoy me. Of course, he doesn't tell me who they are. You know, it's like, I'm trying to tell him what to do. And like, and then there's you, and you've come in and you've lost almost 100 pounds. And, you know, your numbers are great. He's like, I really, you know, and he will work with me. I'm like, I want to get off of this medication. Can you work on getting me off this medication? You know? And he's like, yeah, we'll try this and see what works, you know? So he's really doing a good job. There are some doctors, I would say probably the majority of doctors are really good about that, you know, but there's others that, I always tell anybody, listen to your doctors, but always do your own research.
Excellent advice, right?
Get online and it's like, do I really need this medication? And there's these side effects, and do I need to have this dose? And you have to be your own health advocate. And then it even goes beyond that, like I said, and then you have to decide, okay, I need exercise, right? But am I doing it right? Is it the best idea for me to figure it out? or is it better to like pay a coach to help you with that?
Right.
You know?
And I think usually, I mean, we're going to advocate for a pretty clear answer on that. You know, get with a coach who knows what they're doing. You know, I mean, I'm sure working with Jenny, but also working with Steve, I mean, you can probably attest that I'm sure they're worth their weight in gold, you know, and every dollar you pay them.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely worth it, you know? And, you know, and of course, you know, Steve also uses an app, you know, True Coach, which he gives me the program and I can actually, you know, record it, you know. I always tell people, say, well, what are some of the recommendations? I said, get an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. Okay. Right? No. I strongly recommend it. It makes a huge difference because you can track your heart rate, you can track your progress, you can track your burn, your activity level. You know, any little extra thing you can do helps.
Nice. All right, I've got more questions, but I was going to give Steve, you want to jump in here? I've been talking a lot.
No, it's okay. You mentioned quite a few things that I wanted to kind of touch on because we had talked about it in the past, a couple other episodes that you know, tracking stuff. You know, that was one of the first things that you started doing was tracking your calories and just paying attention. And we had talked about that in previous
3 years now. Every day.
Yeah. And that's oftentimes where I find is a great starting place for a lot of people is to just pay attention, just start tracking things. So, you know, write down what we use an app. It makes it really easy. Some of the apps are real slick. You can just hit take a picture of the barcode and it automatically populates things like that. So there's a lot of great tools out there, but just tracking things to start. And then I was really curious to hear your response about, you know, getting over that reluctance and building into the habits of like making this a part of your life, that it is literally a lifestyle change for you. You know, and like the things that we haven't gotten to it a lot in our coaching, but like that internal dialogue that happens, you know, on and off the field. So, you know, in the gym, in the morning, first thing, what are you saying to yourself? How are your perceptions of your reality, and like that internal dialogue plays a huge role in everything, right? And so like getting into that motivation or getting into pushing into that reluctance, and then noticing the small wins. You know, we talked about micro goals in the past, and like you're able to put your socks on without, you know, getting a head rush because the blood pressure or, you know, you can get your shoes on. Those little micro wins are huge, and like they're just like little signposts, like, hey, you're on the right path, you're doing the right stuff, keep going. So Jenny, we met, you had lost quite a bit of weight before, and like it's noticeable now you're like back into dropping 1 to 2 pounds a week and stuff, and like
well, I know it's weight is kind of like you got to be careful with it. Like
Absolutely.
after I do an intense workout with you, I'll go up 3 pounds because like my muscles are going into recovery.
Okay.
And then like 4 days later, I'm down 4 more pounds,
Okay.
And it's like, so now what I'm starting to notice is the waist is shrinking
Yeah.
and the muscles are building.
Yeah.
And muscle weighs more, right?
I always tell people, and I've told you this before too, like, the weight on the scale, the weight on the scale can only tell you one thing.
Yeah.
And that's how much mass is on the scale.
Right.
That's it, right? Like it can't tell
Right.
you how to feel. It can't tell you how
Right.
you're sleeping. It can't tell you how your clothes are fitting. It can't tell you how your thinking is more clear.
Right.
It can only tell you how much mass is standing on top of this little scale. So it's a very one-dimensional measure.
Right.
But it is the typical kind of first measure to look at, like what's my body weight doing? So you're absolutely 100% right. Like the scale is one piece of the bigger picture, putting socks on. How do the pants fit? I think you said you had to have to buy like a whole new wardrobe now.
Yeah. I had a 54-inch waist, when I stood,
Yeah.
when I
The
weighed
cost
over
of getting
300
fit, man.
pounds.
The cost of getting fit.
Within a year, I literally like I have all these belts, and I put so many like additional holes in my belts because they were starting to wrap around my back, And then I just decided, I had suits I'd worn once, it's like, and I said, I literally like grabbed them all and I'm like, I got to get rid of them, It's like, I don't ever want to fit in this stuff ever again,
Should have a celebratory burn.
I have 4 shirts. This shirt started as a 4X, and I had to like, Michael Hall in town makes these, right?
I thought that was one of his shirts.
And I was like, can you cut it down? He's like, yeah. And so like I'm down to a 2X, right?
Nice.
And I can actually fit a 1X. It's snug, but I was at a 4X shirt.
Right.
And I was just telling Brent earlier, it's like I started buying new clothes and my waist was like 42 inches. And then I noticed those were loose. I'm like, I got to like not buy too many clothes. Like there's a 40-inch waist pair of pants and now I have to have a belt on them.
Yep.
Right. And that's like, I'm just starting to see, and I still want to lose about 50 more pounds,
Wow.
But yeah, you just start noticing these things and it's like, wow, the biggest one was my feet, right?
Sweat.
My feet were fat, right? So like when I lost weight, I would put shoes on and they would like flop around. So I had to put insoles in my shoes because I lost so much weight on my feet. And then like, I was saying, noticing things like, my tendons and veins on my arms again. They could never find a vein on me. Right when I went to the doctor,
blood or anything.
Now I work out and I look and I'm like, I got veins from the pump, and it's like, wow,
That is awesome.
I love it.
It's those fun little
Yeah.
things that are so fun to hear. The shoes fitting, getting your socks
Yeah.
on. And sometimes you got to take the time to enjoy those and really think about those
Yeah.
little victories too, because they might not always. But I love how one of the first things you talked about was I can get my socks on, I can get my shoes on.
Yeah.
And it's just those little things. So
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I would get winded just walking across the room, and because I knew I was sick, right? I'm like, and my heart would pound. I'm like, is this it? Am I gonna have a heart attack?
Right.
I mean, and now it's like I go to the gym and I get my heart rate up to 170 and it's pounding, and I'm like, yeah, I feel great,
I know. I got to pull the reins back on.
Yeah, he'll be working me out, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to go on a treadmill. He's like, dude, you're supposed to be exhausted now. I'm like, well, I am, but I got a little left in me.
All right, so I just want to remind everybody that you are listening on KRYZ 98.5 Low Power FM, Mariposa, California.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. I got a few more questions. I'm going to hop in here real quick. A few things. You said you used an app for tracking your food, right?
Yeah.
I know of a couple. There's like MyFitnessPal, and there's one called.
I started with MyFitnessPal, and then I went to Lose It because Lose It actually will sync up with my watch.
Okay.
So like it'll actually give me credit.
Right.
It doesn't give me all the calories I burned.
Okay.
But it will give me some of them back.
All right.
And so it's like, wow, that actually is kind of a cool feature.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it also has good macro both of them are good.
Right.
In fact, there's probably a lot more of them, but that's the one I use now.
Okay. Lose it. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, I've used both of those myself in the past, both really good. I actually went the other way. I started with Lose It, and then I went to MyFitnessPal for something at the time. I can't remember what, and then, okay. And then, real quick, just approximately.
Well, the other app is the one that he coaches me with, True Coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that'll interface with MyFitnessPal as well. So
Yeah.
if you are using MyFitnessPal, you can interface with the coaching app, and I can see all the nutrition.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, actually, I also share through the Apple Watch, I share like my workouts with him.
Oh, okay.
I'll actually tell him when I've completed a workout.
All right.
Yeah, so
Technology is pretty cool for
It
fitness,
is, right?
it works out pretty good because I can see in True Coach, which is kind of the primary coaching app, like all the workouts are pre-planned out, and then I think it's I think I've got it set so you can see 1 week at a time, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the week, it'll populate, your week in advance, and you can kind of see what's going on. I keep the rest hidden because it's a balance because like they want to know what's coming up, and it's like what's coming up. But I typically when I ran my CrossFit gym, like I wouldn't tell anyone what's coming up because they'll game it, right? They're like, I'll come in on this workout. I like this one. This one looks fun. I'll come in that day.
Oh, we're doing Murphs that day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sick that day. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, I don't ever skip a workout. If I have to do something else, I'll postpone it, sometimes.
Right.
I'll say, hey, Steve, can you change this day or whatever?
Okay.
But it's like there's no excuses for that,
Nice.
Period.
That's an amazing attitude to have. It's easy to skip, and then once you skip one, it makes it easier to skip the second one.
Yeah.
Well, I've already, and then it's like, well, I'm just going to take this week off. And okay, my next question for you, if you don't mind me asking, Mike, how old are you right now?
I'm 58.
Oh, you're 58. So you started this journey about 4 years ago?
Weight loss journey began about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
At about 52, I went from being a fat guy to being a fat guy with illnesses.
Okay.
All right. And before, when I was just a fat guy, I'm like, I'm married, whatever, I don't care.
Okay.
But when I started having to go to the doctors, and when I looked at my medicine cabinet, and I was noticing I was running out of space with bottles of medication.
Right.
I was like, this is really annoying me,
So, the thing I love about that, it does kind of show you're never too old, right? You can get back with it. Now,
Arnold Schwarzenegger's 77,
something like
that.
Yeah,
and he still trains every day.
Yep.
I look at these Instagram guys and these old guys, and they're built. And I look at that, I'm like, holy cow, this guy's like in his 60s and he's built. That means I could do that.
I can get there, right? Yep. So
Yeah, absolutely.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, things change for sure. You gotta kind of adapt this, to the situation because just hormonally, biologically, like muscles wear down a little faster and recovery's a little longer, blah blah blah. But the fact of the matter is, I think it was a Buddhist saying or a Zen saying. It's like the two best times to plant a tree was 20 years ago and today.
Right.
Yeah.
So
nothing you can do about the 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But today, there's a lot you can do.
Exactly.
So, all right. And so, okay. So you're 58 now. And just to kind of context, and we talked a little bit about this off camera. You have kind of yo-yo. The reason I asked about this is I remember seeing a picture of you, like, I think you were on a beach or something, and I'm like, wow, that's Mike. He was, when he was younger, he looked a little bit of a stud,
It's funny because my son's 20 years old, right? And he looks exactly like I did when I was 20.
Okay,
right?
Nice.
And I said, let me tell you something, because he'll eat junk food. I'm like, you can get fat too, right?
Right.
You can get fat too. Trust me, I look great, and I did yo-yo. I was pretty, chubby until I was like 13, and I went on a diet because I got sick of being picked on, and I was starting to like girls.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So
amazing how that
yeah,
works.
so
Right?
it's like, all right, so I went on a diet and I lost, and I was pretty good, I became a chef. Then I got married, and it was my first marriage, right? And I let myself go,
Okay.
And then I remember when got divorced, and I'm some people are stress eaters. I'm a stress non-eater. I eat when I'm happy, not when I'm sad. So
Okay.
like the stress of that, and then I started working out, and I lost enough. I was at like where I'm at now, and then I met my second wife, final wife, and then I gained weight again.
Okay.
We both did, and like I said, it would to me it wasn't. I didn't care until I started becoming diseased.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna die, if I don't do something. So,
Wow. Well, that'll wake you up when they tell you you're going to have a heart attack or you're going to have to be on insulin or anything like that. Those things can give you the kick in the pants. And again, it's amazing that you managed to reverse a lot of that. That you're looking as great. You walked in today and it's like, wow, that's just amazing from when I
remember seeing someone who hadn't seen me for about 2 years, right? I remember walking into the room. It was Joey Noriega, Mark Noriega's son, local.
Okay.
And he's like, holy cow, you've lost a lot of weight, I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, he's like, man, you look way different. I'm like, wow, I really appreciate that.
Right.
People haven't seen me for a long time. They're the ones that notice it.
Yeah, it's such a huge difference. So, a little nuts and bolts. So tell me, so you started with diet. So I mean, are you doing any particular diet right now? Are you vegetarian? Are you carnivore? Are you keto?
He's trying to convince me to go carnivore,
The bear. Just poke the bear.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember right before I had diabetes, I was diagnosed with diabetes. I went from like, you're borderline to like full blown. I remember it was like almost overnight. One of the things that I used to do all the time is I always used to drink a lot of like orange juice instead of water,
Okay.
And as you find out, when you have diabetes, it's like, that's just as bad as you as drinking soda.
It's just like, sugar. Yeah.
I even tell people, I go, even smoothies aren't that great for you because you're not mechanically digesting the fruit. They're better than juice,
Right.
but you should eat fruit. And also, you're not going to eat 4 oranges, but it takes 4 oranges to make a glass of juice, right?
Okay, sure.
And you got no fiber. So, the first thing I had to learn was like, I just got to cut way back on carbs and sugar.
Okay.
Right? I lived through the 80s when, I don't know if you old enough to remember this, but there was this whole fat-free phase.
Yep.
Right? And it happened to coincide right with when they started using high fructose corn syrup and everything. Right?
Yes.
It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can get a supersized drink for the same price as the other one because, they had to, they were using corn.
Right. So
and
much cheaper.
all of a sudden there's like all this fat-free stuff and it's like, there's no fat in this, right? And and it's like, but that really still tastes moist and good. And it's like, they just loaded it up with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And the incidence of obesity and diabetes skyrocketed.
Through the roof.
Right?
Yep.
And so one of the things I learned, right, from diabetes and all that was that, it's a big lie about fat and meat, right? And protein. It's like there's this huge lie that's been perpetuated,
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I tell you, it's just better for you to just eat fat and meat and stay away from the sugar. Now, that being said, I still eat my carbs, right?
Yep.
But I pay attention.
Okay.
Right? And I don't drink sugared sodas. I drink orange juice once a month.
Okay.
Right? If I open up a package of cookies, I eat 2. That's what the serving size is. That's it.
All right.
And I won't eat any more for 5 days.
Okay.
I can make a package of Oreos. You do a line of Oreos. I can make a package of Oreos last me 2 months.
Wow.
Yep. I can one of those little pints of ice cream. That's 6 sessions for me.
Okay.
So I eat whatever I want. But I always make sure that I watch the portion and then I exercise.
All right.
Right.
Yep.
And I was told, I think Jessica at the gym said she posted this on once like I exercise so I can eat like a trash can. And one thing I never do, I learned this is like, don't reward yourself with food.
Okay.
Don't say I worked out really hard so I can eat this. It's like, just eat if you want to eat.
Okay.
Food's not a reward, right?
Yeah, that
You know?
sets up a very bad mechanism.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can get away from you. It's like we use food and alcohol for everything, right? Like you
Right.
celebrate something with booze and food, you commiserate your misery with food and booze.
Yeah.
You know, your birthday parties, your
Right.
you know, any those are like the go-tos.
Right.
And you want to, that's exactly right. You want to get away from that reward mechanism of,
Right.
you know, but we'll get you on carnivore here pretty soon.
Food is fuel.
Right. Yep.
That's it. You know, food is fuel. And, you know, and I'll say this again, you know, another vote. When I was younger, I did drugs, you know. I grew up in the 80s. I lived in Florida in the 80s, right? And I know, and I've known a lot of people. I know what addiction is, right?
Okay.
Food addiction is exactly like any other addiction, right? And it's the worst addiction because food is everywhere and you have to have it, right?
Right.
And so, you know, I always try to tell people it's like you're hooked. You're just as bad as a heroin addict. You know, you're hooked on that.
Right.
You know, and you've really got to understand that you've got to get off of it.
Yeah.
You know.
So do you so I love hearing that you basically eat whatever you want. You just track calories, you know, you control portions and everything. Do you try to limit like processed foods though? Do you do like
I know processed food.
Okay.
I used to be a chef, so like I cook from scratch. I grow my own vegetables in the garden. I'm pretty hardcore about cooking. I make my own bread.
Okay.
In fact, I love bread, but if you make sourdough, and especially if you ferment it for a couple of days, the bacteria that's in sourdough actually digests the starches and the sugar,
Right.
so that it's actually less of a glycemic index on you.
Okay.
Yeah. See, modern bread is actually really bad because it's mass produced really fast.
Right.
They mix it and then they bake it an hour later. That's not the way bread used to be made. Bread was a long process, right?
Okay.
Doing it the right way actually makes a higher quality product for you. I mill my own grains when I make my rye bread and wheat bread. You know? I'm very hardcore about eating high quality food in my home, and that's what I feed my whole family.
Wow, that's great. Although I do want to point out that Oreos are processed food.
Again,
every once in a while.
Once every couple of months. I mean, I do eat some stuff that is processed. I take protein shakes.
Right. Okay.
After I work out because for recovery,
Yep.
and I need my protein. I eat a protein bar for breakfast.
Okay.
I like them because it's good energy, right? But it actually fills me up.
Excellent.
You
Yep.
know? So
We talked about that before on our first
my
episode.
wife was eating Cliff Bars, and it's like I looked at them. I'm like, this is crap.
Right.
This is great if you're like climbing a mountain, right?
Right.
But not if you're sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, eat protein bars instead.
Okay.
You know, much lower calories, much lower sugar, much higher protein count.
And even those you have to watch pretty close because a lot of times they still will shove a lot of protein in there. So you got to read the labels on those carefully and find the ones that
A lot of them are no different than a Snickers bar.
right.
No, it's true.
So-
It's true. I mean, Cliff makes some protein bars, but they're like 290 calories each.
Okay.
I can buy the pure protein bars at Costco, and they're 190 calories, and they're 20 grams of protein.
Wow.
I'm like,
Okay.
that's and like what 2 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
You know. So, you know, that's what I look at all the macros, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, reading those food labels is important because even health foods, you know, protein bars and things like that, they can sneak stuff in on you there.
Yeah, like granola bars are not good for you.
Right. Because they're usually loaded with a ton of sugar.
They're basically candy bars,
Yeah.
you know, with a fancy wrapper that says health. You know?
Right. So, all right. So that kind of covers diet. You know, you cook a lot of your own food, limit processed food. You don't deny yourself, but you really control quantity, or, you know, and portion size and everything. What about exercise? And this is probably where my partner here will be able to speak a little bit because he's your trainer here. But,
Well, I
tell us
do,
a little bit about what you do exercise wise.
Well, I'll tell you, like, you know, what Steve has me on and what I do for fillers, right?
Okay.
You know, let's start with like, so every Friday he does an assessment, right? Where he basically kind of like torture tests me, right? And he's like, all right, let's see how much you can handle, you know, after a week of working out, right? So it'll be
I'm
something.
curious to hear his perspective.
I keep hearing these stories, you know, it's like, I thought one of these days I should do a workout with you.
like,
I'm not so sure.
You're going to do you're going to do 21 deadlifts at 165 pounds. When I started deadlifting, I was lifting like, 60 pounds.
Okay.
Right. And then you're going to do 21 jump ups, and then you're going to do 15. And it's like, it's exhausting. Right. And he'll just keep doing that until I'm like literally like spent.
Okay.
Right. That's Friday. Saturday, my wife and I do yoga.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
That was how I could get her to exercise, so we'll go, and Sharon White found in town, who you've interviewed.
Yep.
We go to her house and we do yoga. And I'm going to tell you, man, if you've never done yoga, it's intense.
It can kick your butt.
It can
Absolutely.
kick your butt, but it's really good because, when you're working out, you have a tendency to tighten up muscles, and that lets you stretch them back out.
Okay.
And I remember listening to David Goggins. He said, you got to stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to do damage to your body. So I do that. Sunday, he has me do what's called long cardio. So I have to keep at first he was like, you got to keep it below 115. We compromised. He said to keep it below 125.
Okay.
My heart rate. And I do about 2 hours of long cardio.
Oh, wow.
Treadmill, cycling, rowing, just long and slow, and just keep my heart rate down.
Okay.
Monday, I take my daughter, I pick her up from school, my youngest daughter, Paula, who's 12, and I take her to the gym, and I do cardio, but I do a more intense cardio.
Okay.
myself. So I'll get on the treadmill and I'll do like a 12 incline at 3 miles an hour for 30 minutes and pump until I get my heart up to 170. And then I'll do, whatever. And then in the meantime, she'll be training with one of the girls at the gym, April.
Oh, okay.
And
So it's kind of becoming a family affair with some of this,
it is
right?
her. I have another daughter that, I haven't been able to convince yet, but she's like, it's kind of like a good bonding moment for us too. She really wants to, be fit, and she actually eats well. We come home and we have a protein shake together.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of cool,
Right.
And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, he has me on these really nasty workouts, and it's a mile long list, right? And it's like, three sets of 15 of like bench pressing, incline bench pressing, deadlifts and then curl. I mean, it's like, it takes me forever to do it, right?
Okay.
And it's exhausting. In fact, he recently changed it up to make it even more exhausting.
What a guy.
Yeah. Tuesday is another one like that. That's Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, which is today, I either take it off, which I'm doing today, or I'll go in and I'll do like medium cardio, or sometimes I'll work out with Jenny if she's available.
Right.
But I won't do the full workout with her because her workouts are intense, right?
Right.
She's got a lot of energy.
Well, yeah. And it sounds like, you're being pretty intense with a lot of the other stuff that you got going on. So
yeah. And Jenny and I had talked about your programming before I started working with you and stuff. And so I kind of had like a general idea of like a macro plan, like, like you were going to do yoga this day and you were going to work out with Jenny this day. And I had a general idea of what kind of stuff Jenny was having you do. So I kind of had free reign with like 3 of the 7 days. Mm-hmm. So, originally the idea still is we're, kind of in a hypertrophy phase where we're like building muscle mass. And so like your take on it's kind of funny, kind of interesting. Like we were doing more of a high intensity focus, mm-hmm. and it, there's 3 different ways to do hypertrophy. We were going after one of them. It didn't fit your temperament as well because you like to feel cardiovascular exhausted when you're done, and so doing a high intensity, hypertrophy type stuff doesn't have that same feeling, and so just temperamentally, I decided I was like, okay, and then I think I ran you through a more high volume type hypertrophy stuff, and I could see that was exactly what style you gravitate towards. You would like align mm-hmm. with a lot more. So changing it over to 3 to 5 sets of 15 to 20, but and keeping the rest periods really short because ideally that whole your laundry list should be done.
Yeah. Well, you gotta
6 to 9 minutes.
We're on like 3 months now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you got to train with a coach for a while because you got to get to know him, and then he's got to get to know you. Or she, right?
There's little nuances like exactly kind of like that, like where working together after a period of time, it's like, okay, he, temperamentally, emotionally, psychologically, all these other little intangibles, he kind of aligns a little bit better with this style, right? Because there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, and you're like, this particular style I like doesn't fit that great for Mike. And it's like, okay, well, we can adjust it. We can, we can change it up and stuff. And so just learning some of those nuances takes a little bit of time.
Right. But it's good to have somebody who has that knowledge, who can adapt the programs to you, and who has the experience to, see what's working for you, what's not, and listen to feedback from you. So, again, always, make sure you're, the trainer you're working with, you jive with. And that can take some time too, but it sounds like it's been a pretty good fit all around here.
Honestly, I think it kind of goes back to like your earlier comments about like, your MD, your medical doctor. And I think it's similar with a personal trainer or a coach, whether that's a business coach or a personal training coach or even a mental health professional. Like you got to kind of shop around a little bit and find one that, like your values kind of align. You guys have, mutual respect. You can communicate very, decently and those kinds of things. And like, it's not the same across the board. Not every MD and cardiologist is going to be the same. So you got to kind of shop around and, if you're going to a therapist, your mental health professional, their style, it just might not be what, resonates with you. It's same thing with personal trainers.
Well, some people are I like to interact with my healthcare professionals, right?
Okay.
I consider Steve a healthcare professional at this point, right? Because it's it's specific kind of healthcare, right? In fact, coaches are healthcare professionals that are like not given like the credit that like doctors are, right? Some people are okay with that. Like I am okay with questioning my doctor.
Right.
And I'm okay with educating myself, right? And I'm okay with the feedback mechanism. Like Steve knows I'm not shy, right? And that's great. That works out great for me. In fact, I think it would work out for anybody, right? Some people will go into the gym and they'll work with a trainer and never say a word, right? And it's like, I'm not really sure how much you're getting out of that. And then they stop working out, right? For me, the gym family itself is important to me, right?
Okay.
Like I'm inspired by people, and I also have a lot of people tell me now, you're inspiring me. And it's really weird. We'll like send messages. We keep each other accountable.
Right.
It's like, I haven't seen you in the gym for a few days. What's going on? It's like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym,
Right.
And it's like I said, it's a very important part of your health journey that's not given as much credit as it should be.
Right.
Doctors will tell you to exercise, but they won't get down into the macros. Right. And insurance companies will tell you to exercise, but are they going to give you money to pay for a coach? Right. And it's like, it's way cheaper in the long run. It's going to cost them a lot more if I have a heart attack.
Right.
Than 10 years of training.
Yeah, we've all seen those bills of hundreds of thousands of dollars for heart attacks and other bad medical issues that quite honestly are quite often preventable.
Right.
And I think you used a term earlier that I think is really good, is you have to be an advocate for your own health, right?
Yep.
It's very important, and these people are not infallible, right? They are not God. They've got a lot of knowledge and everything, but you talked about, you do your own research. I did that too. I've talked about the fact that I'm doing some hormone therapy, and I did a lot of research, and I went to that doctor, and the reason I'm still with him is because he answered every one of the questions that I had for him, as well as some additional things that he proactively volunteered with me that let me know that, he matched up with the research that I had done, and that he was current on what the current medical recommendations are for these things. And so gave me a lot of faith in him. And you got to do that with all aspects of your health, I feel like, even your personal trainer, and find what works for you and what's going to keep you going. And I love that you mentioned the accountability factor, because that was another thing that we've talked about too,
Yeah.
and the fact that the community, the people that you know there now, and the reason, I reached out to you, we haven't talked a lot in recent years, but seeing your posts on Facebook and talking about being an inspiration, I think you are, you inspire me, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on here.
It's really great. I have like several friends like on Facebook that I went to, one of them was like my old boss, this, he's in his 70s. He's like, you inspired me to actually lose 40 pounds. I had another friend, you inspired me to work out, know? I've had several people in town, and it's like, wow, it's really weird. Because, it's like when, Jenny helped me get up to where I'm at, and it's like, I feel like I'm paying it forward. You know what I mean? It's like, I always tell people, I go, if you want to go to the gym anytime, call me. Right? I will go to the gym with you.
Nice. And sometimes that's all it'll take, is a little bit of, accountability. Going there with somebody who has a little experience. It's great that, you really didn't have any fear going into the gym, the first time.
Right.
But a lot of people do, and so having somebody that they could go with or ask questions for, whatever, I think is.
I think it's also important too that whenever I go to the gym and I see somebody working out, and that's like, I'll go up to, somebody there, and I'm like, hey man, nice glutes, male or female, doesn't matter, It's like, you're looking good. Those pecs are awesome, and I think it's really important to say that, because people like to hear that stuff,
Right.
They want people to notice that,
So, yeah, that ties in with some other conversations we've had about, you want to feel good, and improve our health and everything too. But we're all human. We all like the fact that we're going to look better, in addition to feeling better.
Well, I didn't really care at all about how I looked until I started to look better.
Nice.
Right? Well, yeah. Now I look and it's like, oh, you know what? I should get those shirts shrunk down so they're not baggy on me.
Right.
So I, so I look better.
Right.
So the weird thing that I'm dealing with now, and it's eventually, I want to lose about 50 more pounds before I'm okay. It's like, I have like a ton of loose belly skin.
Okay. Right.
Like, it's disgusting, because like it doesn't shrink down very quickly. So it's like, all right, I eventually got to get rid of that.
Okay. So some surgery. I know a lot of guys have to do surgery.
There's only so much it can shrink.
Right.
I'm building up my abs, but and I can still see the abs if I stretch the skin back.
Right.
Now, but it's
they're there.
Big pile of skin now.
Well, and yeah, so, and even though you've kind of done, we've talked about this, a lot of people, when they lose weight rapidly, they get a lot of that. But if you have been, you were 341, 335, in that range, and getting down to 230, 100 pounds is a lot to lose.
It is.
Even slowly, like you did, the body can still only.
There's a lot of factors in there. The elasticity of skin is different for everybody. So,
and it gets less elastic as you get older.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great. Start to wrap things up here a little bit. We're coming up on our hour time limit, but Mike, it's really been inspirational having you here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to come on with us and everything. And hopefully you've inspired even some more people, watching, listening out there.
I know I have so far, but I hope I have as well. In fact, that's why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, if I can help people, get on the right track, introduce them to people like Steve. It's like, hey, in fact, every time I see someone new, it's like, hey, you want to meet Steve?
You're gonna have more clients than you know what to do with now.
He also adds in these horrific workouts. That'll do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, I want to talk real quickly a couple of upcoming events. The Paseo de Mariposa is coming up Sunday, April 28th. There's a 5K and 8K-ish and a 12K course on that. And then I think the same day now, I thought it was a different day, but there's also a Grizzly Dash obstacle course race that's going to be happening at the fairgrounds. And the flyer says April 28th. So I think that's the same day, but if you do it right, maybe you could get both of them in if you wanted to. But that's actually a fundraiser for the local high school sports teams. And so definitely check that out. Both of those are on our website at www.yosemite.fit. Real quick, Steve, the best way to get in touch with you?
Facebook. Steve Duggar Training on Facebook.
All right. And then Mike, you're on Facebook as well. Anybody wants to go to the gym, find Mike Ahmadi on Facebook.
Message, you know.
So yeah, this has been the Yosemite Fit Show with Brent Shazer, Steve Duggar, and Mike Ahmadi. Thanks again for joining us. If you would like to be a guest, sponsor an episode, or have any questions you'd like us to try and get answered for you in a future show, or have any other feedback for us, please send an email to show@yosemite.fit. Should be on the screen down here. And the more feedback we get, the better. It's just we're trying to make this give you guys what you want and really show off the community and all the resources we have here. Just want to remind you, you have been listening on KRYZ 98.5 Low Power FM, Mariposa, California. All right. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much. Mike, thank you for coming on.
I'll see you later, Mike.
We will see you next week. Thank you so much.